Imagine this: a product stamped made in Mexico lands in the United States, avoiding hefty tariffs, yet most of its parts and the money behind it trace back to China. How does this happen? Well, in recent years, the US China trade war has dominated headlines, with tariffs climbing on everything from electronics to textiles. The goal, to pressure China into more favorable trade terms. But instead of folding, China found a workaround: Mexico. So the first question is, why Mexico? Well, the answer lies in proximity, trade agreements, and a bit of strategy. Mexico is a part of the USMCA, which is the United States Mexico Canada Agreement, which replaced the NAFTA in 2020. This agreement allows goods manufactured in Mexico to enter the US tariff-free as long as they meet specific rules of origin. These rules dictate that a certain percentage of the product must be sourced from North America. China, on the other hand, faces average tariffs of about 19% on goods exported to the US, thanks to trade restrictions imposed during the Trump administration and largely maintained under Biden. So, by leveraging Mexico's trade perks, China avoids the financial pain of US tariffs. The second question is how? Well, through something called transshipment and value added manufacturing. I know those sound like complicated terms, but stay with me for a second. Now, what is transshipment and how does it work? So, transshipment occurs when goods from one country pass through another to disguise their origin. While this can involve outright fraud, falsely labeling a Chinese-made product as made in Mexico, most strategies are more sophisticated. Chinese companies actually set up assembly plants or partner with Mexican manufacturers. Parts made in China are shipped to Mexico, where they're assembled or slightly modified. And as long as enough work is done in Mexico to satisfy the USMCA's rule of origin, the product becomes quote-unquote Mexican in the eyes of US Customs. Take the example of electronics or auto parts, industries where this tactic is most prevalent. A Chinese company might send prefabricated components like circuit boards or engine parts to Mexico. In Mexico, workers assemble these parts into finished products. These goods then cross the US border tariff-free, undercutting competitors and avoiding the tariffs meant to restrict Chinese trade. Now, why this matters? So this isn't just a few shipments here and there. According to trade analysts, the practice has become so widespread that Chinese foreign direct investment in Mexico surged by 276% between 2016 and 2022. Much of this investment is funneled into industries like automotives, electronics, and textiles, all sectors where US tariffs on China are high. The next question that arises is this legal? Well, here's the kicker. Most of this activity is perfectly legal. The rules of origin in USMCA are strict, but leave room for interpretation. For example, if a product's North American contents meet the required percentage, often through basic assembly or adding minor components, it qualifies as made in Mexico. However, fraudulent transshipment, where no significant work is done in Mexico, does occur. US Customs and Border Protection frequently investigates cases where Chinese goods are disguised as Mexican to slip through the cracks. In 2022 alone, CBP seized hundreds of millions of dollars in improperly labeled imports. Still, enforcement is tricky. Global supply chains are complex, and proving the true origin of every component is logistically a nightmare. So why does Mexico play along? Well, for Mexico, this arrangement is a win-win. Chinese investments create jobs in Mexico's manufacturing sector, particularly in border towns like Tijuana. By working with Chinese firms, these factories remain competitive and expand their operations. Moreover, Mexico gains access to advanced technology from Chinese companies. This helps the country move up the manufacturing value chain, producing not just raw materials, but also sophisticated goods like electronics and auto components. Now, why should you care? Well, at first glance, this may seem like a distant issue, but it affects everyday Americans. The TVs you buy, the cars you drive, even the clothes you wear. Many of these products are cheaper precisely because Chinese companies found ways to bypass tariffs. However, there is a flip side to this. By exploiting trade loopholes, China undermines the very policies designed to protect American industries. US manufacturers, particularly small and medium-sized businesses, struggle to compete with the low prices enabled by this system. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and hit the subscribe button down below. It really helps me out and lets me know that you're interested in seeing more of my content. Also, if you have any thoughts or questions about the video, please don't hesitate to leave a comment below. I always love hearing from you guys and getting your feedback on how I can improve myself. Thank you.